Is to adopt the agenda. Can I get a motion for that?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so is to adopt the agenda. Can I?
I'm having technical difficulties. Steve. How does this work?
Okay, not a problem. We always open our meetings with a pledge and a prayer or thought. Paul, if I could get you to lead us in the pledge, I will do the prayer tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful this night that we can come before thee to do the business of the city. We're grateful for the prosperity of our city and the wonderful blessings that have come to us. We pray at this time that we'll have thy spirit with us, that we'll be able to make wise decisions, that we will understand thy promptings, and that we'll understand what's best for the people of our city. And remember that that's who we serve. We're grateful for all we've been given and the health and prosperity of our citizens. And we say these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus the Christ. Amen. Okay, next item is a public comment period. This is where you can bring to our attention something that you may want us to take up in a future meeting or comment on something that is not a public hearing tonight. Is there anyone here for public comment? For the record, Shane, state your name and address.
Okay, Shane Croton, 2353 South, 3585 West. This is probably my last opportunity to try some gentle persuasion for item number 8 on the agenda tonight, regarding minimum garage standards. First off, I tried to send some information to all of you. I hope you had an opportunity to look at that, and as well as pulling out a tape measure and doing some research of your own. But I'd ask you, when considering this, to ask yourself 3 questions. Is it usable? Is it functional? And is it comfortable? I also did some additional research that I wanted to provide you with 5 of the cities near us. Layton City, Clinton City, and Kaysville all have a minimum garage standard of 20 by 20. West Point has a minimum standard of 20 by 22. That's width, depth, second number's depth. And Clearfield City has a minimum standard of 22 by 22. And all 5 of those cities, they take their measurements from interior wall to interior wall. And they also have the requirement of no encroachments in that required space. So it really provides citizens with a garage that's actually usable, and they don't have to feel like they're a sardine trying to get out of their cars. And finally, just at the language you'll be looking at tonight for that proposed ordinance, I think it's actually not written correctly, because they're taking dimensions from outside walls, outside of the foundation walls, which means foundation walls are a minimum of 8 inches thick. So you're going to lose automatically 1.5 feet off of that interior space. So I think there's some more work that's going to have to be done to actually have a garage space that even fits the 400 square feet that you mentioned in that code, because 400 square feet is 20 by 20. So just some information to think about when you're looking at that item. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close public comment.
Mayor, you just skipped over item 2, which is the police department volunteers.
Oh, sorry. Item number 2, recognition of Syracuse City Police Department volunteers. Sorry, chief.
That's quite all right, sir.
We don't always do this item, so.
No, you're fine. Mayor, council, thank you for the opportunity tonight. I apologize. I must have got some of my information crossed with our volunteers. I know how much they love being here, but I will make sure I get to them with one of their club meetings and present their recognition item to them. But I do still want to read it all and make sure that we get them on record for their amazing service. So the week of April 24th, 2024, set aside as National Volunteer Week. One purpose of that week is to recognize those who have given back to their community through their acts of service. Since 2013, Syracuse Police Department and the Syracuse Lions Club have partnered to form a Volunteers in Police Service program. We've worked together to raise money for charitable events, support Lions Club causes, and perform service to the public. In 2023, this group donated over 200 hours by providing services to do fingerprints for the public. Without their volunteering and their help with that, it would be a very difficult program for us to be able to manage for them. So it's with great pride and admiration that I present the names of these members of our Volunteers in Police Service program to the mayor and council for recognition and note. Lynn John, Sandra John, Don Jensen, Deborah Smith, Mike Eisenberg, Chris O'Shea, Eric Ellington, and Jane Gailey. So I will, like I say, I'll make sure I get to one of their meetings and get them their awards. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, and please express our gratitude to them. All right, moving on to item number 4, that would be approval of minutes. We have minutes from March 12th and March 26th. Are there any corrections or amendments? Hey, could I get a motion to approve?
Don't look at me. I didn't read those. I was running short on time. That was last on the list.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as noted on the agenda.
can I get a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you. Motion passes. I would like to also recognize that while we are short in number here physically, we do have Councilwoman Robertson and Council Member Savage online. The next item is a public hearing for Resolution R24-10 declaring police canine jacks and related equipment as surplus and authorizing transfer to another government entity. We did hear this in a work session. We understand that there is not a situation where we can continue. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. As I said, I know you all heard this from Assistant Chief Anderson in your last work session, so I won't go over it. I know that Colin, our city attorney, has created the resolution for it. So if you have any questions about why it's being done, I'll be happy to field those, and anything for the resolution. Perhaps Colin can take care of that portion. And leave it up to you at that point.
Thank you, Chief.
Mayor,
Yes.
in the resolution, there is a typo that I will need to correct. Section 2 should read police canine jacks and related equipment may be transferred to another agency.
Thank you for that correction. Is there any further discussion from our work session, council? Could I get a motion then?
I move that we approve proposed resolution R24-10 declaring police canine jacks and its related equipment as surplus and authorizing the possible transfer to another government entity.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
Mayor,
I agree. It's sad to see him go as well. I'll keep you updated when we find the agency where he'll be going. So
Thanks, Chief.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
sorry, I don't think you opened the public hearing for that item.
Oh, that's right. We do have a public hearing because it is a surplus. So I'm going to go back and open a public hearing if there's anyone who'd like to comment on this. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Seeing as there is no change, I'll accept the vote that's already taken place. Item number 6 is also a public hearing. A proposed resolution R24-11 waiving room rental fees and deposits for the North Davis Communities That Care bi-monthly meetings held in calendar years 2024 and 2025. And I'm going to make a statement here that we can add to that the waiving of fees for park rental fees for the illumination event that we have hosted since the beginning. Council, first, let me open the public hearing. I'll declare this a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to comment on this? Please state your name and address.
Mayor and council members, I'm Cheryl Phipps. I'm the chair of the Northern Davis Communities That Care Group, and I'm a resident of Clearfield City. Do you need an address or just that's good? Thank you. We appreciate this opportunity to make this request. Syracuse City has been a partner with Communities That Care from the very inception of this group, and our purpose is that to work with families and make our communities so that our children are safe and to sustain our children with mental health issues and in substance abuse protection. And you all have been generous enough to let us be able to use your facilities in the past to have meetings, which you all are part of, because we have representation from all the 5 communities in Northern Davis County, and meet with the various groups that elected officials and other groups that meet with us to talk about what we do to strengthen the situation of our youth in this area. And so we would appreciate if you would move forward in the future with allowing us to be able to use your meeting spaces for a bi-monthly meeting that we will have, and we rotate through the various cities that are in the community. And so we would appreciate that consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, any other thoughts since our work session? I would,
So this is just this is a request for fee waiver for the bi-weekly meetings.
and for the park.
Illumination.
For illumination.
Oh, for illumination as well.
And you need to specify that in the resolution,
Okay.
because it can be added, but it was inadvertently left off of the packet.
And this is for years, what, 2020?
24 and 25, it's been suggested by previous councils that we only commit this council. The next council can continue to commit this, and we appreciate that. That's
It's
wonderful.
logical.
But we like to limit it to where we will be the council.
I mean, I didn't have any comments. I think we were mostly good with continuing with that fee waiver for them. So
Can I get a motion?
I'm happy to do it. I move for approval of proposed resolution R 24-11, room rental fees and deposits, and also for the illumination event for the North Davis Communities Care bi-monthly meetings.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Here's that motion that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. You're always welcome in Syracuse. Item number 7, proposed resolution R 24-12, approving comprehensive edits to the Syracuse City Personnel and Procedures Manual by making adjustments throughout. Steve is not here, and he usually handles this as by way of definition, but just for the public, we went through this at great length in our March 26th meeting of all the possible changes. This usually at this point in the year, and it is the case tonight, we're making mostly adjustments to things the legislature just passed so that we are also in compliance with the state government. And so.
And all poor spelling. We're just in that too, I think.
Yes.
And
That is correct.
Mayor, and if there are any questions that Steve needs to answer, he is online right now.
Oh.
He's joining from a
Thank you for
conference.
joining, Steve. He is at a conference at this point in time, but I think we're good because we had a very extensive discussion. Any further discussion of items that you'd like to address?
I didn't have anything.
I don't see any at this time. Could I get a motion to move forward?
I'll make a motion that we approve proposed resolution R 24-12, approving comprehensive edits to Syracuse City Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual by making adjustments throughout.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion appears to pass unanimously. Item number 8, proposed ordinance 24-06, amending Syracuse City Code Section 10.30.20 pertaining to minimum garage depths. We did have a public comment regarding this today, and I will lead off by having Noah, our planner and community economic development person, go ahead and lead us off with your comments and thoughts.
Yes, we've talked about this before in work session, and we also held a public hearing at Planning Commission. And I've discussed the item with Shane as well. The proposed amendment is included in the packet. It's mostly dealing with protrusions, or things that would keep you from being able to park your car in there. To address the 400 square foot thing. So if you look at the ordinance that's on page 246 of the packet, A says that the garages have to have outside width of 20 feet. And then it does say that, and then right at the top under 3, it says that every residential dwelling shall have a minimum fully enclosed 2-car garage of at least 400 square feet in total floor area. So I guess in a perfect world, you would measure 20 by 20 in a square garage, but all garages aren't perfectly square. And so there's 2 things that the floor plan has to pass. So we do review that with the building permit, so that the square footage of the garage has to be 400 and the outside dimension. So there could be an amendment. We could change that to be wider if we wanted to. But up to this point, the discussion has been mostly around the protrusions. And so that's what this ordinance does. It makes it so you can't have those things. And if we wanted to fix other things, we could. It just hasn't been on the radar, really.
I'm pretty sure we talked about this last time about the size of the inside of it and being able to park cars next to each other. So it wasn't just the protrusion, it was the inside.
And that's there. The 9 by 20 is there, so you can park in there. But I guess,
But it's the 20 feet from outside wall to exterior wall, right?
But it's
Not-
not.
Yeah, but I
it
didn't
says
get a
having at
consensus.
least 400 square feet in total floor area.
Mhm.
Would floor area be measured from the interior wall?
yeah,
Okay,
That didn't sound like a full positive yeah. It sounded like, yeah, maybe.
like,
me look.
yes, and having at least 400 square feet in total floor area. Yeah, I mean, I'm
But it
not
doesn't
trying to,
specify.
if there was something that we missed here, by all means, I'm not trying to
That's what we're
exclude
talking-
anything. So if you guys want to have more conversation, you guys are welcome to have that, and I'm happy to make whatever amendments you want.
I agree with Shane on this. I fully do. I don't think and Paul, you made a comment last in the work session that then all the developers have to go through and change all of their plans already. Well, actually, they're changing them for us because ours are smaller than the rest of the cities.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I talked to Lon Hunter on the planning commission who deals with plans all the time, and he said it's really, my concern was I didn't want to unduly increase housing
Yeah.
costs. And Lon says it's a pretty simple procedure to update, so I'm less concerned about it after
Yeah.
here. I having somebody that's in the industry helps.
oh, I agree 100%. Yeah. I like people to have knowledge in the area.
I would say that I think that it is well written in the sense that it requires a square footage on the interior, not a square, because garages are not necessarily square. And we have a lot of housing designs which allow for a deeper part of the garage in case you wanted to park a vehicle such as a motorhome or a boat. Sometimes people have a 3rd car garage that is deeper than the other 2-car stalls. So I agree with that. I think it is a general rule in Syracuse, having just driven around, most of our newer construction is already in excess of this. I think that that's because of public appeal and the market is correcting as needed. But it is a point to make sure that, you know, stalls are usable. So just wanted to add that thought because I did reach out and talk to a couple of people and look at current plans that are being developed today, most of which exceed our requirement.
So do we feel that that language of 400 interior square feet is sufficient enough that we don't need to mess with the exterior dimensions, or?
Yeah, it seems like there's, you know, I think is what maybe Shane and Jennifer's saying is that they'd like to increase that outside width of 20 out to 22. And we've looked at the standard dimensions of a 2-car garage. That standard garage door width is 16 feet. And then, you know, of course, and so a standard parking stall is 9 feet wide. So you have 2 of those by each side. That's 18. And then you have a couple feet for walls and foundations and stuff. So I guess if we wanted to make it wider, we would be saying we not only want to have a standard parking stall, but we also require additional width for things like, you know, to be able to really swing your door open or to put some shelves. And if we want to make that a minimum requirement, that's fine. But I don't know how much that really would have effect on housing affordability. It probably does increase it a little bit, but probably not that much. But we do have a lot of developments that have development agreements and stuff. So they're halfway through with the plans that they've already drawn. And so this would take into effect some of the newer ones that are coming online that we would have to make sure they implement.
One of the things that I think is interesting that could be fixed here is we tend in our code to be to give more than one specified requirement for the same thing. And what I think from a city council, you know, be it previous city council member's position was you got conflicting information because somebody could say, oh, well, my outer dimension is 20 by 20, so I met the code. But then it doesn't meet the 400 square feet. Or I met the interior dimension, so obviously I met the code. I guess my point is we probably ought to be more one requirement so that we know exactly what it means rather than conflicting requirements. So I would move that when we do make this motion, that we exclude probably the outside dimension and limit it to only the interior. Just
I agree.
so that there's no confusion for future council. Somebody says, oh, but we meet it on this other standard.
Yeah, that could be easy. You could just say as measured from inside of the foundation, you could just cross that. And
So does that 20 feet, is that what we're saying is sufficient, or we're saying we need more than 20 feet interior?
My personal opinion is if you went 22 by 22, it's not going to really affect much. If you, I mean, whatever you make it, if you made it 20 by 30, then that would affect substantially. You're adding 10 feet to the garage somewhere, but 2 feet one direction or the other or both is, you know, we're talking about what, 2 bricks in the length of a garage.
I think it matters more for the homeowner than it does the builder.
I agree.
And any extra, having a standard of space that you can count on. And because most people, when they hear, oh, it's 20 by 20, you feel like you think that's the inside. The inside's 20 by 20. And you don't go out there and measure it to where the outside's 20 and you've only got 18 feet inside now. So and that's how people plan. They're just so excited about a new house. So small things like that slip their mind to ask. So we're basically doing the due diligence to prevent that from happening to them.
So I don't see a length mentioned anywhere other than the parking stall.
Yeah.
it doesn't, it just relies on the 400 square feet in floor area. So we could put a width and a length if we wanted to. I mean, I'm sure there's communities out there to do that.
Yeah.
I would put them as minimums, not as exact, because then we have the freedom to just use the square footage total, and somebody can exceed one of those measurements either direction. That's
I
why
agree.
solve that.
Yeah.
So are we gonna be able to make a motion and do that? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we are kind of amending it on the spot, but that is within our ability in the meeting, so just whoever makes the motion, make it make sense. Or if we'd like to work through what that motion should say.
That we should probably do that first.
Brad, are you okay? What,
Here. My issue with this is I look at it more as a measurement versus mandate kind of situation. I think this is an arbitrary change in the ordinance. I'm 100% for people having the ability to park their cars in their garage if they want to do that. I get concerned that this kind of amendment opens the door for somebody to come in and say, well, I need a kitchen that has a certain dimension in order to have a table put in it. Or I need to have an ordinance dealing with a bathtub that's deep enough and wide enough for somebody to sit in and be able to have a decent bath. To me, this is arbitrary in some ways in that we're setting standards that should be addressed by the people who are purchasing these properties. I think that most people who purchase a residence, and certainly the people of Syracuse, have the capacity to go into their garage and decide whether or not this fits their needs, and they can purchase. I think this cures itself by people purchasing property and saying what they want for specifications for their property. That's my view.
I feel like the garage is very much something that gets overlooked because we don't take both of our cars to when we're talking about a house, see if they fit at the same time in there. And my thought process on this is I don't care if you want shelves or a bathtub in your garage. I'm just interested in making sure your cars fit comfortably and you can get out of them without having to do the peanut shuffle. So and I feel like the 9-foot space that we have, it's just, if you have larger vehicles, it's just difficult. And it's too difficult. And to accommodate that, making them just a little bit wider on the inside helps the cars, the vehicles of today, because let's be honest, these vehicles are large. Most people have larger family vehicles. And to be able to fit 2 in there comfortably, you got to have a little extra space, not an extra amount of space to put shelves, because I'm not concerned with your shelves. I'm concerned with you being able to keep your vehicles out of the weather like you paid for.
well, I mean, we're kind of already going down the road of somewhat dictating a little bit of what the consumer has, because we're saying a single family home has to have a 2-car garage. That's already in the code, right? So
Yeah.
So now we're saying, okay, if we're gonna require that garage, then it should meet a minimum specification.
I agree.
I don't necessarily have an issue with it, but.
This raises something that I've kind of debated for a long time, and that is that there is an official standard out there, the American standards that dictates stair lengths and heights and dictates chair sizes and countertops and all of that. It has a little bit of a buffer, but it's meant for us to all feel comfortable in any space and not have fully customized everything. So I asked the question, is that enough? Do we need to go further? So, yeah. So
Mayor,
go ahead. Yeah, I see Jordan would like to comment, and I'm going to recognize Jordan online. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think I agree with Brett on this one. I mean, we can get to the point where we're stipulating every single little thing.
Yeah.
I was okay with dictating that any intrusions like stairs or something shouldn't interfere with the parking of, a stall, for example. And if you want to define it, but if we start making this too specific as to what we think the ideal garage is, I think we're overstepping we're shooting past the mark. We're trying to make this a little bit better by identifying something that someone had brought up as, hey, sometimes people are putting stairs in a parking stall. And I'm okay saying keep the intrusions or whatever they may be, the stairs or whatever out of a parking stall. But beyond that, I don't think we need to get too much in the details. I agree that I don't think it's too much to ask someone to go measure the garage before they buy it.
So let me throw out one possible solution here for wording. Maybe we word the ordinance that there is a minimum square footage requirement with adequate space for a minimum car parking. Now, I know that leaves a little bit to be desired, meaning if you buy, you can't say, well, that means that I have my 16-foot motorhome has to fit in this garage. No, it means that there has to be adequate size for what the American or standards call an average car. So if there's at least 2 stalls that do that and the minimum square footage, maybe that's a simplified way of making sure you meet the ordinance. So somebody could go beyond that. They're free to, but at least we've met what we are trying to do, and that is that an average American size car, which is the mid-size as measured by their standards, that at least 2 of those fit within a minimum square footage.
My experience in site planning and civil engineering design and stuff is the standard is a 9-foot by 18-foot stall. That's what everybody designs in parking lots. So we've already got 2 extra feet in there that our city requires.
It's
In parking lots,
it's-
right? Designed to fit a bunch of cars in, not a comfortable home of your own where you want your cars to be in there and be able to get out of them.
No, I think he's saying for a home because
Yeah.
Oh, he just said parking lot.
In a parking lot in civil engineering design, but
because there are standards for
Architect-
in-home and public that are different.
My
Yeah.
issue relates to, are we mandating what people need to do with their garage?
I
If the
agree.
issue is these protrusions, then I can see a remedy, and I'm not saying this is what should be done, because I don't like this idea either, but you could put in this ordinance that any builder has to disclose that there's a protrusion that would impact 2 cars being put in the garage. That solves the problem.
Yeah, but then what if they look at it along the lines of, well, Mini Cooper will fit here, so that doesn't impact.
to me, if we're trying to solve an issue with builders not providing adequate parking in garages, we're going, and protrusions are a part of that. You almost have to, if you're going down that path, we have to define what a parking stall is.
I agree. And
I'm not saying that's the
my-
right answer. I'm just saying if we're going down that path, that's what it takes.
my look for this is I understand both the builder, but I'm more interested in the consumer side of it. What is it that the consumer needs and what is it that we can protect them from having to experience this all over again? Because builders are going to build the way that we say the standard is, and maybe more. They maybe, some might give more. Others will just do it at exact what our code says.
But then to Brett's point, then it becomes a consumer builder issue and we're stepping in as a city and trying to dictate that relationship between consumers and builders.
And just.
But don't we do that already with the minimum square footage of a house?
But just to add to that, the consumer says what they want, not us. And, well, the consumer drives that. And then the question is, do we need to protect the consumer from making a decision on what they want? And my point is that we don't. If the consumer can take a look and see what they want in their garage and what they don't.
In a perfect world, that would be perfect. But people, especially new homeowners that have never bought a house before, are so excited. These small things are the things that they end up missing. And then when they move in, their cars don't. And that's what happened to me in our first home.
What if I come here and say, I want there to be a mandate on the size of a bathtub? And it needs to be a certain depth in order for me to have a bath that I want. How is that different?
Yeah, but we have an average size of vehicle that we're, like the mayor just said, an average size vehicle is an average size vehicle. And knowing that there is a standard of size is what we're going off of. Humans come in a vast array of sizes, so we would need a whole lot of different bathtubs. Here, cars don't come in that many sizes. And we're trying to make 2 that are standard size cars fit comfortably and still be able to get out of them.
What if I don't want that?
You don't want your cars to fit comfortably?
No, I mean,
I'm asking you, that's the thing.
what if I have a Mini and a Suburban and they fit? I'm not trying to make this more difficult.
Right.
Then awesome.
I honestly.
You're one of the few people that don't have that problem. Congratulations.
I think his
I
point
don't
is.
have or
Well, then in this scenario, you,
I do see, Councilman Cragen's, point that if I came to the market and said, I want my home built a different way, do they have a right to do it? And because they're the one
well,
building.
we already have a standard size for what we allot for homes. You can't go under a specific size unless it's an attached dwelling, correct? Or an unattached dwelling.
You're
In the back.
talking about for
Brand new
garages?
homes have a specific, a minimum of square footage they have to be, correct?
No.
They don't? So I could build 1,000-foot square home and it's just fine.
Mhm.
Are we the only city without that
So you're asking if there's a minimum square footage?
requirement when you?
Some
build?
cities have actually gotten in trouble, and in fact, the legislature's been trying to address this because it's kind of like exclusionary zoning, like, oh, you have to build a 3,000 square foot house to be in our community, and some cities have done that. And in fact, with the affordability crisis that we're facing as a state, the legislature recently has told cities you can't tell builders which direction their door faces, which direction their garage faces. And for a city to have a requirement of having a garage period, that actually, I mean, think about the affordable housing of probably our grandparents. They didn't have attached garages, and how many thousands of dollars is that as the city requires extra? So if we really want affordable housing, which I know this issue isn't about, but I'm just saying the standard trends in city regulation on garages, I wouldn't be surprised if the legislature came out and said cities can't make you have a garage because that increases the cost of housing.
I can see.
It changes my whole opinion. I was under the impression we had a minimum size housing requirement.
No.
But I can see where, the legislature trends over the last decade, we're more likely to have them say, you can't tell them they have to have a garage than they are anything else.
We can't tell them about brick, rock, and stone on a standard single family house anymore.
We spend a lot of time on that for something that they won't let us talk about anymore.
That's where we're likely to get ourselves in a situation where what we do is just undone because they're gonna come back and say,
You can't do that.
yeah, this is personal property, it's private property rights, they can build their house to the specs that they want.
I think if people want space to have a 2-car garage, that's what they buy. That's what they get. That's how I see it.
Well, at this point, I've raised the thoughts that I had. You do with them what you want, but I do think that we probably need to get a motion and go forward on something. So if anybody has a motion they'd like to put out there,
No, I'm conflicted. now. I can't. I'm like, I believe every city around us has that you have to have a minimum of square footage to build a house. And I was under the impression we did too.
Well, and this is kind of what I said at our work session, that it's a consumer builder issue. And I mentioned like, hey, when I bought a house, I made sure my cars that I wanted fit. That's a consumer issue that they need to know what they're purchasing. And I think people are smart enough to do that.
As far as the square footage thing, sorry, go ahead, Jordan.
okay, so before you chime in, Jordan, I do see a hand raised for Julie. So Julie, would you like to go ahead?
Sure, thanks. Okay, so my opinion on it is that if we make a motion, we should make it be a minimum of 400 square feet that is measured on the inside, and that it should be the minimum of 20 feet wide. I'd like to see it to be the 22 feet wide, because I think I agreed with Shane on that this is about, efficiency, comfortable, functional garage. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. Jordan, I'll go ahead and recognize you.
I do think that we should put a restriction that if you're going to put a protrusion into that standard car space, you can no longer call it a 2-car garage. It has to be able to fit that second car. And I appreciate the idea of a Mini, but Since they are not typically the standard car length, I'm okay with stating something along the sides of a minimum that for it to be a 2-car garage, it must fit 2 standard sized cars. And I'm not going to do the widths, any extra. I mean, shelving on the sides is great, but I'm more focused on the protrusion into usable space than anything else.
But if we do that, Jordan, doesn't that leave that open to so much interpretation? If we're gonna mess with it, that's what I'm saying. If we're gonna mess with it, we almost have to define what a stall is. So it's like,
I just say avoid, protrusions shall not intrude into the, I can't think of how to say it, into the area designated for a car. Because there are some where you'd have a hard time fitting a car in there. I think if you're going to call something a 2-car garage, you need to have truth in advertising.
So maybe let me throw this out for future proofing any resolution that rather than ask for a measurement, that we say the minimum square footage that includes adequate space for what the American standards defines as a garage stall.
That's too much work.
Well, the reason that I say that is we've seen in the past where people make changes, like standards change because of buying habits. If the smart car had caught on, they maybe would have redefined that cars were all shorter because everybody had them now, but they didn't. So it's remained the same. But likewise, if we all started driving freight haulers, then they would probably revise the standard to. So I'm saying that whenever we refer to as standards, it seems to be acceptable. Then when it changes, we don't have to change. That's the only point.
And usable space can't include the protrusion. So if you're going to say 400 square feet, that the protrusion doesn't. That doesn't include the protrusion. The protrusion is additional beyond that 400.
I guess I was going about it the other way to say, as long as it didn't interfere with what they considered a space.
Yeah,
but
that works too.
Either way, look, we've beaten this to death. I don't know if
we haven't, because we can't figure out what.
I don't know if we're going to get a.
I think you can set a minimum square footage. The issue I have is whether there can be a protrusion in there and then the people can buy it with the protrusion or not.
Yeah,
it's up to them. And then you've set your footage, so it's at least there, which I think is a good idea. I'm not saying that it's a bad idea to be able to put 2 cars in your garage. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is it takes away the consumer the ability. If they want a protrusion in there, put it in there. They can do what they want. It's their problem.
Yeah, the ordinance already says minimum of 400 square feet, and the ordinance already defines a parking stall in the city as 9 by 20. And as far as some sort of national standard of the average car, I am not aware of one, but maybe there is one out there.
There is. I mean, I used to keep a standards book because when back in the day when I did a lot of that, there is an annually published book that is the American standard.
The average American car.
And the nerdy side of you appears.
well, where are we defining what a stall is?
In our parking ordinance in chapter 10.
Is that going to apply to a garage, or are you just you're saying reference that?
So in our parking standards, every single family home has to have 2 stalls. In the ordinance, it doesn't say whether or not those stalls are in the garage or outside. Our ordinance just says you have to have a garage, whether that's for storage or parking or whatever. But the parking ordinance defines a stall as the dimensions of 9 feet wide by 20 feet deep. That's the standard, and that's even more generous than I guess the national standard is 9 feet by 18. So we're already bigger than.
Okay, so that goes back to my original point. We either don't mess with it, or if we're trying to solve a problem with the protrusion, you have to define what a parking stall is at 9 by 20 or 9 by what.
Yeah, I like the way that it's written. I just don't think it's enough space. I think it should be 10 by 20.
Julie, were you trying to chime in? Or were we just hearing some background noise? You're lighting up, so I just wanted to check with you.
Okay, no. Thank
Okay.
you.
No problem. So does anyone have a motion?
I think we're going down I think we're getting into a slippery slope of trying to define things that we probably don't need to define as a city council. So I'll make a proposal. You guys can tell me if you agree. So I propose that we reject the changes to ordinance 2406, amending Syracuse City Code 10.30.02 B3 pertaining to minimum garage depths.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, Jordan, I didn't hear a vote because you're on mute and you would be the deciding vote here. You voted,
Also, nay. I think the protrusion needs to be dealt with.
okay? So the motion fails. Do we want to look at an alternate motion or are we just going to move past?
So I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance 24-06, amending Syracuse City Code, section 10.30.020, pertaining to minimum garage depth as written. Interior garage dimensions shall accommodate 2 9x20 stalls uninterrupted by protrusions such as stairs, water heater, furnace, etc.
All right, that was very specific. Good job. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay. On the current motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so that motion passes 3-2. We will move past it. Number 9, proposed ordinance 24-7, eliminating Board of Adjustments and assigning board's duties to a hearing officer. We talked about this. This rarely is a factor and rarely is in place, but it does have such specific language that it is almost dictated by law. So a hearing officer makes this more efficient. Do I have any comments on this?
This is a good idea.
Okay, so can I get a motion?
I move that we approve proposed ordinance 24-07, eliminating the Board of Adjustment and assigning the board's duties to a hearing officer.
Second. Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 10, proposed ordinance 24-08, repealing and reenacting code provisions dealing with the Architectural Review Committee. Noah, did you have any comments on this? You manage this committee.
No, I support this amendment. It just cleans things up so that the members of the ARC know what their term lengths are,
Okay,
and it's easier to find what the rules are.
can I get a motion on this unless somebody has any further discussion? I think we were pretty clear on this one.
I move that we approve proposed ordinance 24-08, repealing and reenacting code provisions dealing with the Architectural Review Committee.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. I just want to make sure because I saw multiple listings. This is 4-year term, right? 4. Yeah, okay. Just double checking because it's been rewritten multiple times while preparing this packet. Okay. So we have a motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Item number 11, proposed ordinance 24-09, amending section 8-10-90 to the Syracuse City Code pertaining to conveyance of irrigation water associated with non-residential development. Is there anything we need to talk about here? This was another very lengthy discussion.
I don't have any other comments from what we've already discussed.
Seeing none, can I get a motion?
I move that we approve proposed ordinance 24-09, amending section 810-090 of the Syracuse City Code pertaining to the conveyance of irrigation water associated with non-residential.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that motion passes 4-1. Item number 12, authorize administration to award contract for dog park construction. And Krista, would you tell us where we're at after the bids came in?
Okay, after you guys all saw the summation that I sent out to you with the different options that we had. I also just sent out an emails today to remind and then give insight to council members that weren't here about what we've discussed in the past, and then also so you could see the concept plan, so that you can make the vote tonight. We have, like I said, the project was budgeted for $472,000 when we brought it back in October. We discussed looking at ways that it could be cheaper, and so the bid actually came back at the $880.01. They did throw that 1 cent in there.
Just for good measure,
Just for
right?
good measure. And that was with the concrete and everything that we had, the minimum of everything that we wanted. And then we also put your option for the chat. And then we discussed after we got these things that could be taken out, and we unanimously decided that the dog hill, we didn't have to have, although, you know, dogs like to be king of the hill. And then we didn't have to bring in the sewer line, which would bring in the drinking fountain and the water station for the dogs. They could walk over to the restroom that's in there. And then so you have those options for the chat and also for the concrete.
So I want to speak to the 2 items on the proposed alterations. Number 1 would be the dog hill / pipe. This is an item that I proposed in the design because I thought it would be incredibly simple and cost effective if we already had the pipe and where we were just going to throw some dirt over it and grass. Apparently, that's expensive. It blows my mind because I would do it for half that.
I got a big giant culvert pipe that I'll donate, 20 foot.
Well, we already have the concrete pipe that we were donating. So that's why I'm baffled.
We got a ton of dirt too.
Yeah. I mean, I go out there with a shovel myself and throw it in there just for the benefit of happy dogs. But if that's what they're going to charge for it, I can't in my right mind ask us to pay for that cost. It just seems ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, we can look in future, and that's what we had planned on doing is getting the dog park going, and then in future, bring little things in,
Yeah.
you know,
So
to the dog park.
that was on me. I thought that was going to be next to no cost, and it turned out to be a serious cost. So throw it out. But the other thing that I feel really passionate about is the concrete. The more we discuss the designs and the more that I talk to people with other solutions, there are plenty of dog parks that don't have concrete, that use road base on walk trails or for just the park in general. But I've been reflective of how often I have comments from many of our active seniors who slip on trails because of a crack or something that happened. And the chat is a gravel-based option. I'm worried about people slipping and falling. Not that it's our liability, because it's not. You use at your own risk. But I don't want to see people hurt. If we could find a way to include the concrete walk path, I think that it would sustain better and it would be a safer park. That's my thoughts.
I agree with you. I feel like if we're going to make a park, it should be able to accommodate all of our variations of citizens if they so choose to use it. And that's what we try to strive for every time. And if we know senior citizens have a tendency to slip and stuff like that, I understand the park is right by the fire department, but they're busy. And so if we can prevent them from having to run over with a gurney, I think that we should do that.
I think concrete's the better option. It's got more longevity.
So we can just accept the options as is, and we're still in budget.
I feel like Jordan had a big question about the concrete.
He did. He's dropped off. Here he
There he
comes
is.
back again. Jordan, did you have some comments? You're the one that asked about the concrete. Jordan?
Hold on.
Okay, well, if,
Oh, there it is.
Sorry, I dropped and just barely came back. I heard concrete.
yeah, so you had questions about the concrete and we're giving the floor to you to talk about that. Okay, well, if you come back to it, go ahead and speak up. Otherwise, the concrete to me is a safety issue. I'd like to see it finished with the concrete and a longevity issue. So I'd like to see it with, what I was getting at before was we could leave everything in and still be under budget. But I was concerned that we might take the big savings on the concrete and I was looking to save it somewhere else if that's a concern.
But you were saying the dog hill at almost 20,000 is probably not.
I don't think it's worth that cost. I think we could do it for a quarter of that. It's just not that.
I get bored on weekends.
We'd have to.
Amazing with a shovel.
We'd have to let them build it as is and we could alter it after for a lot less money, I think.
I agree.
What about the fountain? The fountain is expensive mostly because if we let it be a human fountain, we have to have a return sewer line, which adds $7,000 to the cost for the sewer line. Or we could just let humans drink from the fountain that's in front of the restroom, which is only feet away. It's not even a quarter mile. It's a couple hundred feet. So that we could downgrade the fountain to dog only, or we could just eliminate it. Either way.
I feel like dog only, because if the parks we build, we accommodate the
Drinking fountain.
entities that use them, which in the most situations is humans. So we provide them with water so they don't pass out. Again, firefighters. So I would think it's logical to have a dog water fountain there at their height, but the humans can drink from the ones we already got.
Yeah.
Because the drinking fountain and dog hydrant was almost 15,000.
Yeah.
What does it break off if we take off the human?
We didn't look into that or into tying into the irrigation line, because that's what you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to tie into something, so.
We'd still have to have water.
But we wouldn't need a return line, right?
Need a return line.
I guess it depends on how much it's gonna save us.
And you have to worry about, like, it's the parks in there with children,
Yeah.
there's a
They
good
drink out of the
chance.
secondary.
I do worry.
I know, but
The dog water is cleaner.
That's their parents' responsibility.
I do feel like that's the problem that we're gonna run into.
The logic of it all. I feel like it's a problem. Yeah. too.
So what are your thoughts on the fountain at all, or?
I still think it should just be a dog.
I like the idea of a dog fountain if it's not that much extra at a.
And leave it as a irrigation secondary. What?
You press a button and the dog.
I think the same.
I don't think we can do, that's why I was turning around and asking Robert, can we even do that and with the drinking fountain
without a sewer return? Because if it's
Or a dog
not,
fountain?
if it's not human, then it could drain naturally into we could just put gravel under there and it could drain naturally. Because we don't have to regulate. Let me bring Robert up for the engineering side of
That's why I was turning around and asking.
No, that's great.
I think it's more health codes on this one, but if you had it as a fountain, I mean, if you were gonna just hook it secondary water, I'd probably just make it a hose bib then in that case, like a secondary water hose bib. Rather than looking like a fountain. You might have kids going up there trying to think it's a drinking fountain, even if it's only for dogs.
Even if it's only on the ground?
Mm-hmm.
With a cautionary sign, they'll still do it.
I mean,
Yeah, and it's a park, so kids are gonna just go over there on their own.
Something that would say no.
Non-potable water.
Yeah.
But then it's also only available whenever secondary water's in the line. So,
Yeah, that's
but,
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the key is the drainage is what I thought we were saving, but if we're really not saving the drainage, then.
You just can't go into gravel?
If it's just like a hose bib off the secondary line, you would not need a drain because it's just like it would be like for your yard,
But
right?
I have a culinary line in my yard and it doesn't have a return. It just drains
Right.
to the water.
Oh.
But with the hose bib, just with the hose bib, you also have to take into account the water's available to anyone whenever. We don't want that either. Like we turn off our water
Right.
in the park so that people just can't come and,
fill up and do stuff.
That would be another issue that I didn't think of till this second, but if it were secondary, it would get shut off for half the year.
That's right.
Yeah.
The dog park could remain open, so it would be,
And if you have a spigot, then somebody could turn it on and leave it on.
right.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like people come and just turn it on and use it whenever they want to, or if they want a water fight or whatever they want.
Okay, so
The dog button press, you press the button and it comes out, and when you let the button go, it stops running.
No, he's talking about a bib, a
I
hose
don't
bib,
know.
like a,
Maybe there's
I
something,
like
don't know.
I like the convenience of having the water there for the dogs. So
Okay.
if we couple it with for 15,000.
it is in the budget.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't have.
I agree.
Brody,
Mayor, maybe you don't know, maybe you know this or not, maybe you don't, Robert, but if you have a water fountain that has a sign that's for dogs only, does it need a sewer line attached to it?
That's just what we.
I don't know the answer to that.
okay,
That would
so
probably be something I would.
let me
ask
preempt
Barb.
this by saying that I think I hear that there may be an appetite to just leave the water fountain in and finish the park.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna
We don't
table
need water.
that part of it.
We don't need.
The water fountain stays,
The hill goes,
the hill goes.
concrete stays.
I
so
know,
option 5, it'll be.
yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so can I
No,
get
just
a,
take out the hill.
can I get a motion then from someone?
I move that we authorize administration to award contract for dog park construction project minus the hill.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. This will be a great excitement for our folks out there
Sorry, PD.
for years. All right, so item 13, proposed resolution R 24-13, restricting and regulating the use of pressure irrigation during watering season 2024. This is really just to set our watering season, which we agreed to the same as last year. Is there any further discussion?
I like that we're doing the thing, certain days you can't water on. I think that's going to save our system
It
some
helps our system a
hassle.
lot.
Again, I know citizens aren't going to like it, but our system will, and that's important.
Yeah.
We didn't talk too much specific about if we want to keep quadrants, we can. I did put it in the packet in case if you want to keep it similar to last year. If you want to do anything different than that, just let me know.
I think according to previous discussion, everybody was
Yeah.
good to do
I like
just what we did last year.
Yeah,
So can I
quadrants
get a-
and all.
Can I get a motion to do that then?
Am I going to do this one too? Okay. I move that we approve proposed resolution R 24-13, restricting, regulating the use of pressure irrigation water during 2024 to include the quadrant factor of it.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Item number 14, consideration and action of proposed amendment to contract between Syracuse City and Utah Division of Water Resources pertaining to water utility billing software.
Ooh, someone else gonna have to take this one.
I could mention just briefly, it is Utah law that we have an ability for our customers to understand how much water they use. This software we're working with Weber Basin on, it's the lowest cost, most affordable. It's something they've developed. They've got the staffing. The contract we have is with the state Division of Water Resources, which the grant would pay for the full first year of implementing the software, which is typically the biggest for getting things put in place. So they're adding more money to the grant and a time extension, which will allow us to complete it with extra time and within, well, no cost to us for the first year.
I like that phrase.
I didn't see in there. Does it tell us what the ongoing costs are?
Yes, 23,000 a year. That's in that.
Any discussion on this?
Yeah.
Software is not my forte, so go for it, fellas.
I don't have any.
So can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the proposed amendment to contract between Syracuse City and Utah Division of Water Resources pertaining to water utility billing software.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I am now going to put us in recess of this meeting so that we can convene a meeting of the redevelopment agency here in Syracuse. So can I get an adoption of the agenda for the redevelopment agency meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and the second item on our agenda is the March 12th minutes from the redevelopment agency special meeting. Can I get an approval or motion to approve those minutes?
I move for the approval of the March 12th, 2024 RDA special meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The item that we're here to discuss tonight is a proposed amendment to the Shadow Point Shopping Center incentive agreement between Syracuse City Redevelopment Agency and Shadow Point LLC. We know what this is for. This is part of the incentive offered to EOS. Is there any further discussion from what we'd already had in our previous work session?
Did we pin down the dates?
The start by and
Yeah, there's two dates that start by November 1st and complete and be open. I mean, that we're talking like the weights are in, the furniture's in, they're open,
January 1st.
January 1st, 26.
And starting November 1st was meeting footings were poured by.
Footings are done.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I agree with the wording as you put it in the packet. I think that captured all of our comments.
So can I get a motion?
This was nicely done, Noah. Thank you.
I move that we approve the proposed amendment to Shadow Point Shopping Center incentive agreement between the Syracuse City Redevelopment Agency and Shadow Point LLC.
Second.
Second.
Motion moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I will now adjourn us from this meeting, and we will revert back and call our meeting back to order, where we will continue with item 15, which is public comment. Does anyone have a public comment for us tonight?
My name is Scott Slinken, although I'm not a current resident of Syracuse, my family ties go back to some of the original settlers of this town. It's been about 15 years since I've been back to visit family, and I would like to compliment you guys on the most boring city council meeting I've ever been to in the past 12 years. Having lived in Vegas and Austin, Texas, and most recently Richmond, Virginia, school boards, the knockout, drag-out fights between the city council members was very shocking. And I have to admit, I've ran a couple red lights, Chief. I apologize. I'll start paying better attention because these red lights were not here last time I was here. The apartments along Antelope Drive were not here. So I think it's great credit to your city, to the city manager, Brody, who I've not seen in 12, 13 years, about how the city is being ran. So kudos to all of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments?
How you feeling, Shane?
Seeing none, I will close public comment and we will go to mayor and council announcements. I'm going to start online to make it simpler. Jordan, you're up.
The only thing I have is kudos to Krista for a pretty awesome Easter. It was freezing, but her staff got in, got everything done. How many eggs? Like 20,000 eggs cleaned up in under 60 seconds. That's always impressive to me. 38,000 cleaned up in under 60 seconds. It's amazing. And then Cresta's staff kept everything moving. So amazing job. That's all I've got.
Okay. Julie.
I don't have anything to report, but yes, Easter egg hunt was really amazing. And Jordan tried to grab me into the booth, but I got away.
All right, I'm going to leave that one alone. Rhett.
Nothing for me tonight, thanks.
Okay, Paul.
I don't have anything.
Jennifer.
We are still currently working on the farmer's market. Can I get the information for, Mr. Rex Harris's replacement?
Yes.
We're having a hard time pinning down a location. The museum is gonna be probably, Jordan will probably appreciate this, a last resort, Jordan. We're trying to get one of the parking lots first. And tonight is the meeting for next year's Miss Syracuse royalty, so that should be going off pretty fun. And I think that's about all. Oh, and the dare truck was here tonight for your viewing pleasure, which was also in the manager's report, but that tells me Paul doesn't read the manager's report because he's never seen it before.
Okay, we're not going to chide each other right after being
I read
complimented
some
for
of it,
getting
yeah.
along.
He's got a rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. As previously announced, there is auditions are currently ongoing or being set up for the summer musical, which is Newsies. Substantial completion of the pipeline out at the sewer outfall is reaching critical point. So we're just really focused on the pump house at this point. But that is going to be a major change to the Great Salt Lake, which over time, we appreciate that. And also wanted to announce that the spring symphony concert that has been announced with guest artist Kurt Bester is now under preparation, which is really great. We want to, if you want a chance to see Kurt Bester's show at a highly discounted rate compared to what they've charged, we compared our prices to, say, the show that recently happened in Ogden at the Eccles Center, and we are substantially lower. So it's a great opportunity to see the same quality here in Syracuse. That's the end of my announcements. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I feel like with the amount of farm equipment we have going on right now already,